content moderation. That's what I do. What you can or can't see, what you can or can't post. It's all determined by Instagram's rules enacted by AI and people like me.
When did you first get started with content moderation?
When I first became a moderator, well, I thought I knew what it entailed.
Hi, nice to finally meet you.
as well.
If you're just gonna follow me this way, we're gonna watch your training video. To start your video, just have a seat right at this desk and press play when you're ready.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, welcome to your first training session. In this session, we will cover the content moderation process at Meta. At Meta, we're committed to giving people a voice and keeping them safe. Since 2016, we've implemented a strategy called Remove, Reduce, Inform to manage content across our Meta platform. This means we remove content that goes against our community guidelines, reduce the distribution of problematic content that doesn't violate our policies, and inform people with additional context so they can decide what to click, read, or share.
Why is it important for you to share your story?
I was one of tens of thousands. My experience is not unique, but I think it's important for people to understand the work that we do day in, day out. Remove, reduce, inform only scratches the surface of what moderation consists of. The nature of our work demands total psychic engagement and commitment. When people first flocked to Instagram, they were being sold this notion that they could blast their thoughts around the world in sort of a unrestricted way, when in reality, there were buildings around the world filled with people like me making really important decisions about whether or not that self-expression was appropriate while referring to Instagram's guidelines.
To help with this strategy, we have developed policies called our community guidelines that describe what is and isn't allowed on our technologies. We also collaborate with global experts in technology, public safety, and human rights to create and update our policies. The community guidelines cover 22 different topics, all of which fall under 5 overarching guidelines: violence and criminal behavior, safety, objectionable content, integrity and authenticity, and respecting intellectual property.
What did an average day look like for you?
What I did was considered an entry-level job, which meant that I, along with a lot of other young people, were doing it. This job led to a lot of burnout. I repeatedly did the same thing day in, day out. Every day, I sat at my computer and sifted through hundreds of videos. I often had about 10 seconds to assess a piece of content and determine whether it was in violation of Instagram's guidelines or not. And after a while, doubt would start to creep in, Did I take content down that it didn't need to be taken down? Did I let something slide? I ended up becoming so desensitized to the content that I began performing really poorly at my job.
In our next session, we'll go into each community guideline in detail, but for now, it's important you know that we enforce our policies using technology such as artificial intelligence and machine learning tools that help us identify and remove a large amount of violating content, often before anyone sees it. We also use human review, which is where you come in. Potential content violation get routed to review teams. Sometimes, this review means simply looking at a post to determine whether it goes against our policies, such as an image containing adult nudity, in instances where our technology didn't detect it at first. In other cases, context is key. For example, our technology might be unsure whether a post is containing bullying, a policy area that requires extra context and nuance because it reflects the nature of personal relationships. In this case, we'll send the post to review teams that have the right subject matter and language expertise to further review.
What was going on in your work that was causing this burnout or desensitization?
What I was doing was really a frontline decision-making process. I would sit in front of the screen and jack into a queue system that would serve up content to me that someone else, someone like you, might have encountered on the platform and had a problem with. Oftentimes, it wasn't too bad. For example, a picture containing adult nudity that the technology didn't detect. But other times, it was really bad or illegal activity that maybe involved someone being harmed. These kinds of posts were then reported and sent to our queue. I was on the other side of that queue, along with thousands of other moderators. We would look at the content, usually just for a matter of seconds because of the sheer volume, and then we would have to recall Instagram's internal policies about what they allowed or disallowed and apply it to a particular piece of content. And then ultimately, it was a binary decision. This should stay up or this should come down, and it should come down based on these grounds, and then I would be on to the next piece of content doing the same thing again. Sometimes what I would say would be totally not harmful or offensive, but then the next piece would be something very shocking, showcasing, for instance, like abuse or suicide. I was called upon at times to make thousands of these decisions per day on my shift. I tried to develop some sort of emotional armor, but when I started to not let things get to me, I began to feel like a very different person.
Well, that sounds very intense. Did you or other moderators face any backlash from removing people's content?
Oh, yes. We faced a lot of backlash online from various people who were upset that their content was being taken down. It's hard, really, because we have to make these decisions about what can stay and what has to be taken down, and sometimes it's unfair to people. I understand that. Sometimes we are wrong, I know that, but at the same time, we have these rules and guidelines that tell us what to take down and what can stay, and we have to abide by those and make the best judgment that we can with the information that we have.
This next submission comes from an Instagram user in Brazil who wishes to remain anonymous. She states, "In October of 2020, I posted a collage of 8 photos. In the caption, I made sure to indicate my post was to raise awareness of the signs of breast cancer. The words breast cancer were written in Portuguese on my post, and I also made sure to make my post pink to showcase that it was in line with Pink October, the international campaign to raise awareness for breast cancer." All of the 8 photographs showed breast cancer symptoms with corresponding descriptions, and 5 of them included a visible and uncovered female nipple. The post was removed by Instagram's automated system that enforces its community guidelines of adult nudity and sexual activity. I went through Meta's internal appeal process, which places posts in front of human moderators, but I ultimately had to take my post to the Oversight Board, which is basically the Supreme Court of Meta, in order to get my post restored. Instagram has a policy exception for posts that seek to raise awareness about breast cancer, so my post should not have been taken down. I wanted to share my story to maybe tell other women that they can and should get their breast cancer awareness posts restored. I also think that my experience showcases the lack of human oversight at Meta, as well as their inaccurate automation that enforces their guidelines and interferes with my right and freedom to express myself.
We partner with companies that employ over 15,000 reviewers who help in doing the job of reducing harm. Our review teams are global and review content 24/7. We have over 20 sites around the world where teams can review content in over 50 languages. Review teams must have language proficiency and cultural competency to do their job well. In relation to cultural competency, we hire reviewers who know and understand the cultures represented across Meta technologies. For example, Spanish speakers from Mexico, not Spain, are hired to review content from Mexico. It's important that reviewers know the specific meaning of words, cultural context, colloquial language, local celebrities, or the latest news stories to have the necessary context about a post and apply our policies accurately.
Which working at Instagram did you get some larger sense of how important the issue of content moderation was to them?
Yes. On one hand, anyone who was engaged with the practice of content moderation at the company knew how important it was, as it was one of the few sorts of gatekeeping mechanisms that could truly be relied upon. It was one of the areas of business where their employees were truly reflective of the diverse communities that utilized their platform. On the other hand, though, new contractors were constantly being brought in, which we were aware of, and we felt pretty disposable in most cases because of that. I mean, there are over 15,000 reviewers who do this job. These companies talk a lot about complete automation, but from being in the industry myself, that's still a far way off.
We at Meta would like to officially welcome you to the team at Instagram. We hope that through this session, you have a better understanding of the content moderation process. Should you have any question, please reach out to your supervisor. We want to ensure that you feel comfortable and have a good knowledge of how the process works before you begin your more practical training. We look forward to working with you and achieving great things. Thank you.